The views of the guest are that of the guests and do not represent nor reflect the views and opinions of the Lockoutmen channel, the Recruiter Call channel, nor its host. This site content is for entertainment, educational, and informational purposes only.
So this is a crazy story. So listen, imagine being out with your family, having a good time, just chilling. You go to a restaurant and you just vibing with your family. And all of a sudden, you just hear your alarm on your car going off. Now, a lot of times when alarms go off on cars, some people tend to ignore it because maybe it was just a bump by accident or something like that. But in this situation, something really happened. So they get up, go outside, and to their surprise, their vehicle was broken into and a couple of stuff was taken out. How would you feel at that moment? Would you feel violated? Would you feel upset? Let's talk about it.
Before we get started, does anyone want to get out?
What's going on, guys? Welcome back to the channel. Thank you for listening. And in today's story, we have popular TikToker Clarissa Rankin. She shares a story on her TikTok of her vehicle getting broken into. She wasn't upset of the vehicle being broken into, even though her book bag was stolen. Luckily for her, it wasn't nothing much of importance. Well, if you want to consider your iPad important, then yes, I guess something was important, was in her book bag. But let her tell it, it wasn't that important. But what she's mostly upset about is the lack of attention that the Charlotte Metropolitan Police Department gave. So I watched the video, and even though I agree with her to a point, but there's a couple of issues that I have with the video in pertaining to the way the Charlotte Metropolitan Police Department handled the situation.
No more wasting time. Let's get it.
Hold on.
Somebody broke into the car, stole the book bag. In the book bag, it was my iPad in there. I called the police. We have been waiting for over an hour for them to come and do a police report on the car, and they haven't got here yet. I'm upset because the police this is not urgent enough for them to be on a rush here, right? But my problem is if somebody run a red light, somebody jaywalking, if they suspect, like even just now, these two guys walked up to the car asking for dope. Why ain't you on this stuff? They was sitting over here trying to smoke dope in the corner by this restaurant. But y'all be worried about street takeovers. Y'all be worried about when somebody's speeding. Everything is a concern.
So she says, as you guys heard, why is this not a concern? Everything else is a concern. Everything else is urgent. Speeding and the takeover that she's talking about is one of those drag races that they be doing in the parking lot.
A story in the headlines all week. Street takeovers blocking off Cleveland streets and intersections.
She feels that the CMPD concerns more with that. But here's the thing, right? A car break-in is not a big deal to the police. And the reason why it wasn't urgent is because nobody wasn't hurt, nobody wasn't killed, or anything in that situation. Somebody broke into the car and stole your book bag. And being that you even called the police and they said that they was going to send a car there, what happened with me in the story time? I was in the parking lot and I was with the tow truck driver. I was on the other side of the truck talking to the tow truck driver. I had a book bag that had my equipment. I'm going to round it up to like $5,000 worth of gear. Cameras, computers, hard drives, you name it, it was in that book bag. Very expensive book bag, and I usually keep it on me at all times. But for the moment, I go and put the book bag in my truck to talk to the tow guy. Somebody in the parking lot blew their horn and got my attention and said, hey, somebody went in your truck and took something out of it. So I hurried up over to the truck and I noticed that my book bag is gone. $5,000 worth of equipment. Again, cameras, GoPros, my $3,000 plus computer, you name it, it's gone. It hit me like a ton of bricks. I was upset. I was like livid. Like Clarissa said later in the video that if she was there with the adrenaline, well, hold on before I continue the story. Let her tell it.
Somebody gonna get hurt when it comes down to breaking in someone's car. Like, as soon as they did it, my husband and our friend was up. They was out. Somebody gonna get themselves killed fooling up with this car or fooling up with trying to do breaking and entering. You gonna get hurt. And I'm not understanding why there's no sense of urgency to prevent crime before it happens. It's no sense of urgency at all. None at all. We're still sitting here waiting on somebody to come and nobody has gotten here yet. They got video. We got video of the car. They threw the iPad out right in front of the police department. Do you think they got fingerprints all on the door? Do you think they gonna care? But when you watch stuff on television, on CSI and Law and Order, they fingerprint, they tape it, No, it should be the same thing to get these people off the street because I'm telling you, I'm glad I don't be in, when this stuff happened, I'm glad I don't be right there because I promise you, the way my adrenaline go up.
Well, I'm glad you wasn't in that situation because if you was in that situation, ain't no telling what might have happened to you. They could have had a weapon. It could have went the wrong way. It probably wouldn't go the way that you expected. And that's the same situation with me. If I was to go and chase that car down that took my book bag and I didn't have my protection with me and I was to go and confront them, who's to say that they didn't have a gun? Who's to say that it was more than one person that was in the car, which technically it was because the person on the passenger side got out. They jumped in my truck. They snatched the bag, hopped back in the car, and somebody else was driving. So, yeah, I know what you guys are going to say. Yeah, I slipped. They caught me slipping. They caught me because the only way they would have known that it was something of importance in the bag, which they didn't know it, but they knew that I put my bag in the truck because somebody had eyeballs on it. So I am glad that you wasn't and your family wasn't in a situation that could have went ugly. Okay. And the same thing with me. I couldn't chase that car down because I didn't know what would have happened, if anything. So, of course, I called the police like they did. Unfortunately for them, they still waiting at that time for the police to come. And as I stated before, that's not a high priority call. A car break-in is not a high priority call, especially if nobody wasn't hurt. You feel me? No matter what color you are, what gender you are, your car being broken into is not a high priority call.
Hold on.
Lockout. A car break-in is generally not considered a high-priority call by law enforcement unless specific circumstances increase its urgency, such as suspect on scene, weapon involved, personal safety threat, or stolen property of critical value.
So I'm surprised that 911 even suggested a car to even come. Because when I called 911, they told me I had to go to the precinct. And 5th District is right down the street from me. It's on 152nd. So I pretty much understood the assignment. I had to go to the 5th District and I had to make my report there. I had to make my report there for twofold. Number one, I had to make the report for the insurance to cover my gear. And then number two, I had to make the report because somebody broke into my truck. So when I went to the police department, they went back there. They got a detective that was on duty. He came outside. He took my report. That was about it. Did you recognize the car? What color of the car? Did you get a license plate? And I wish the person that waved me down or blew to let me know, I wish they would have got the license plate. Maybe we would have had a better chance if I had the license plate. But I told the officer no, I didn't get a chance to get the license plate. The car was brown, black, or whatever. And the only thing I could tell you what happened is that somebody jumped out the car and took my book bag. He asked me how much was in the book bag, and I rounded it up to about $5,000 because it was a lot of gear. A lot of my YouTube stuff was on them hard drives. It was a lot of footage that was on them hard drives that wasn't even edited. And again, was I in my feelings? Damn right. $5,000 worth of gear ain't nothing to shake a stick at. For Clarissa's situation, a iPad, which runs maybe about $200, $300, $400, $500, depending on what gig size you got. And then everything else that was in the book bag that wasn't of value, but it was of value to her. The book bag that was taken, in Clarissa's words, was a one-of-a-kind glow-in-the-dark book bag. But as far as the importance, the expedience of the cops to come and take the report of your car being broken into, it's definitely not important unless somebody was hurt in the situation. If you or your family members confronted them and they did something to you, yeah, they will be there lickety split. But for your car being broken into, it's not a big priority. It's not a high priority. Then if somebody was to call and say, my car got broken into and somebody got hurt in the process. So I feel what you're saying. I agree with you because it did happen to me, and I'm sure it happened to most people when their car get broken into or anything like that. And the police response is not the response that you're looking for. You looking for lickety split, be there right then and there, and you trying to compare everything else that you probably see on TV. They're not going to do all that CSI stuff. They're not going to take fingerprints. They're not going to do none of that. Usually when somebody break into a car, they usually have gloves on anyway.
Check under the seat.
Unless this was just so happened to be a dumb criminal. Let's hope that he was. Let's just say for shits and giggles that he didn't have his gloves on and he used his bare hands. Still, you looking for a whole CSI setup to come out to your vehicle to do all that stuff. They're not going to do all of that. They're not going to do all of that. Even though that we see on TV what they do and all like that, they're not going to do all that. It's not a high priority call, Clarissa. And I'm sorry that happened to you. Again, like I said, it happened to me. So I experienced it. I do know how you feel. There's definitely no judgment on how you feel. How you feel is how you feel. But overall, I'm just saying, as far as the police and what you're saying about them not caring and the expedience of them not coming to your call, it just wasn't important to them. It's important for you to make the report, but it wasn't urgency to come and take the report. Shout out to Clarissa Rankin. I hope everything work out for her to get her items back. I'm sure she had them insured. I'm glad that her family wasn't hurt. I'm definitely glad that her family wasn't hurt. This just goes to a cautionary tale, everybody. Whatever you have of importance in your vehicle, either lock it up in your trunk if you have one or take it with you. There's been a lot of break-ins as of late, especially in 2024. Anything that you hold to your heart and you don't want nothing to be messed with, bro, put it somewhere. Put it in the trunk or take it with you. Always watch yourself. Watch your surrounding. Keep your head on a swivel. Until next time, everybody.